Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Dave Jones. But before we get into today's episode, guys, Steve, can you tell us a little bit more about our world-class club?
Yep, that's our members area. If you are watching early, thanks for supporting us. We have 2 tiers. $2.99 is the first tier, that's ad-free episodes and early release episodes. And the second tier is 99p, and that's the early release episodes for all our back catalogue there as well. Thank you.
Hope you enjoy the episode, guys. Have a world-class weekend.
Yeah. We should, in between Southampton and Cardiff City, we should obviously Wolverhampton Wanderers as well, your manager. So,
great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, that in your career, wherever I've gone, I've been quite lucky, really. You win things, you do things here. Everyone talks about that day. It was the best day of their life when we got promoted down at the Principality. Everyone talks about it. Even my wife says it was the best day that she ever had. What about our marriage? Well, never mind that. It was the best day going down there. It was. They'd waited 22 years. Yeah. I'd promised them I'd get them promoted in 3 years, and I did it in 2. I should have done it the first year, to be honest, but the side was too young. We weren't losing games. We couldn't see out the wins. We were drawing them. Teams were scoring against us later on, and that was just purely down to lack of experience. So the following year, I went and signed Paul Ince and Dennis Irwin.
Yeah.
Experience.
For their experience, and then following year we go and win it, which was great for us, which was brilliant for this area, and people still talk about it now. That's 20 years ago.
Yeah,
always talk about it.
Yeah, I was probably the same question you guys, but obviously Dennis Irwin, Mr. Reliable, Paul Ince, what were they like as characters? They must have been, coming from Man United, used to performing week in, week out. It has to be invaluable to have that kind of competitive level.
I remember speaking to Dennis. Dennis was probably, and is probably, one of the best pros I've ever worked with, because he never missed a day's training, even though he was 38 years of age.
Yeah.
But then when we got promoted, I tried to replace them. And the chairman said, why are we replacing, Dennis Irwin and Paul Ince, who've played for Man United and Milan and all this? And I said, because they have a flaw. What do you mean they have a flaw? Age. Yeah. Dennis didn't really want to play again in the Premiership. He wanted to be part of it, but a bit player, because he knew his body wasn't going to take it. But the biggest mistake the club made in this part of the world, and everybody will tell you that you speak to, they didn't give me any money.
Yeah.
And then when they did give me some money, was at the Christmas time, the January window, and we went on a run, which, if we'd have started like it, we'd have finished above halfway. But we were catching up. And to this day, nobody can ever answer me why he didn't give us money. And then they learned by it, because when Mick took him up, they gave Mick money to stay up.
Seems like a theme going for your career.
They learned the lesson, yeah. But I think sometimes as a manager, because you're finding players all the time, and if you look at the squad I had here, you look at that squad, some great players like,
Kenny Miller's,
your Blakeys, your Sturridge, your Mark Kennedys, your Sean Newtons, Colin Cameron, Alex Ray. I had unbelievable side, Big Paul Butler, Jolien Lescott, Naylor. Yeah. It was like, but I think they think the players knew they needed help as well.
Yeah.
And I had 3 or 4 players lined up all to come in, and if he'd have given me the money straight off, we'd have stayed up. And then when he did give me a bit of money, and I brought in the striker and all that, he went on scoring goals for fun. We were catching up all the time, and that was the difficult part for them. And when I speak to Mick now, and I play golf with Mick now and again in the charity dues, he always says that they always say that they weren't going to make the same mistake when he went up that they did with me.
And he gets a benefit from
and
that.
even the CEO, Jez Moxey, in the area, even Sir Jack admitted that to me. And what I should have done, I should have walked away.
Yeah.
When he told me I had no money, like I should have just got up and walked out.
Tough call, though.
Because my stock was high. But your ego takes over. I'll show you, sort of thing. But I should have walked, really. That's what I should have done.
Yeah. Obviously, we've talked about some of your time at Cardiff, but the FA Cup run, getting to the final, what was that like? 'Cause obviously, probably expectation wasn't, probably to try and get into the playoffs, but then suddenly you're on a run.
Our cup final was the semi-final.
Yeah, when we beat Barnsley.
Yeah,
And
that was our final.
Yeah, what a goal by Ledley.
Yeah, but that was our cup final, really, because if you look at the Portsmouth side at that time, I mean,
unreal, isn't it?
Harry had some great players, like
did.
Yeah.
and then they went on to play for, didn't want to go on to play for Real Madrid and all this, like so.
Sana Diarra, I think.
Yeah, he had some top players, but we had a chance. I always felt we had a chance.
Yeah,
I did feel we had a chance, and I think. The goal was a scrappy goal near post.
Canu special, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
Great player.
was scrappy, and we had one or two chances, but it wasn't a great cup final. But I think our cup final was the one before.
Yeah.
And for someone like Cardiff to get to the final, I don't think. I remember Arsene Wenger sort of downplaying it, but hang on, you didn't get there that year, so we did. So he was trying to say it was a poor two teams that got there. I was that because one of them beat you, I think Portsmouth beat them, so no, it wasn't. So you get to a cup final, you've earned the right. And I thought we had half a chance.
Yeah,
I've always gone into a game thinking we've got half a chance. I've never gone into a game thinking we're not going to get something from it. I don't think we performed as well as what we did in the semi-final. I think maybe one or two got overawed a little bit or whatever. I don't know, but I think we could have played better.
There was some cracking players though, like you had Sol Campbell. I think he was playing for Portsmouth at the time. Obviously, Canu. These are all elite players, aren't they?
The right-sided player, I think he's the one who went on to either Inter Milan or
Boateng, was it? Boateng?
No, it was another one. It was stocky. He had some,
Centre midfielder.
Yeah, he had some top players.
Was Matty Taylor there then as well?
He would have been Portsmouth around about that
Glenn
time.
Johnson as well.
He's good,
He went on
wasn't
to play for Liverpool.
He's got a few goals.
So when you look at the
Glenn
squad,
Johnson.
because it was Portsmouth, everyone thinks that,
Yeah.
oh, they're not a good team. They were decent.
David James
And they
as
finished
well,
way up the league that year as well.
Yeah.
So.
Harry assembled a good team.
But I think, as I said, for a club like Cardiff to get to a cup final was, players did brilliant. I think the whole day, the 2 days, but for us, probably the best day was coming back from the semi-final.
Yeah.
That was an experience on the coach there.
Yeah.
Don't remember for 2 days. I think we were blitzed. And again, we were always close to getting we'd always just miss out on a promotion. The year we should have gone up was the Blackpool one.
Oh, that was heartbreaking. That was in the
Because
final.
we were
better side, I
we were
thought, in the
streets
final.
ahead of them, and their manager knew that as well. We were way ahead of them, but again, we lost Jay early on, and it was you got that feeling it's not going to happen for us today. But and we scored first, and we should have gone on and won it, but you just think to yourself, oh, Jesus Christ, it's not.
Yeah, Charlie Adam hits a wonder goal, doesn't he?
Yeah, but again, I think we could have stopped a couple of them, and it always would.
Yeah.
And I think was one over the line that they say wasn't over. I think if we had VAR, I think one would have been given, one wouldn't. Anything like that, I don't know. But it was hard to. It was a bitter pill to swallow that.
Yeah.
And then you've got to start again because you're going to lose players. And I just think at the time, if we'd have kept a squad of players together, I think we would have done it way before the club actually did do it.
Yeah. But it was disappointing that season. What about obviously the time we went close again in the playoffs, missed out to Reading in the semi-final. You had quite a few decent players. Obviously, some left. You had Bellamy down. You managed to get Ramsey back on at low.
Yeah,
as
but
well,
then they took Ramsey off me. Once we got Ramsey fully firing again, Arsenal took him away from me.
Yeah.
If it had kept us,
I think they would probably
if it kept players like that. Yeah, we would have done it. But Bellas went back, Ramsey went back. It
What did that conversation go like with Wenger asking for Ramsey? But
nothing you can do about it, really. You know, because he's their player.
Yeah.
He's their player, and he was back on song again. I remember playing. It was a Swansea that year when.
Yeah.
You know, he scored. Was it Bellas who scored? But he made.
He set him up, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good combination, and you're talking about two players that you got to replace all of a sudden, like, and you're thinking, wow, did you do that? And that's no disrespect for the ones we were bringing in, but we never carried the big squad because we couldn't. We just couldn't. And there were some good young players coming through as well. And you look at, you know, two right backs that went on and played for the international team.
Chris Gunter and was Darcy Blake in?
Darcy, midfield player, he went.
Yeah.
You had the Adam, the other right back who played.
Adam Matthews, is it? Yeah.
So, you know, and Joe played for the national team. So you had some good players. It was.
Couldn't quite get over the
his
line.
career was very short, wasn't it, Darcy Blake's? It was.
He's retired now, and isn't he?
Yeah, I don't think he plays anymore.
Yeah, well, he played. He had probably a game of his career for Crystal Palace, wasn't it, in the playoff final? Played amazing. I remember that particular game, but
shame, because he was a good squad player. Darcy, he was, you know, I remember we had to take all his back teeth out.
Really,
because he was always complaining of his calves. We sent him to a specialist, and he said all his back teeth are rotten, so all the badness is going into his system.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, honest to God, I always tell this to people that the medical side of what we had at Cardiff was next to none, because Robbie turned up and we found Robbie's problem, which Man City, Liverpool, all them big clubs never found. We found it because we had to spend a bit more time with the players on keeping them fit.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a big squad. So if we lost a player through a pulled muscle, I would have slammed my medical team. We did so much prep, pre-prep and everything else. You know, Alex and all them. You know, I think one season when Alex was with us, we never had a pulled muscle.
Well,
we'd have an impact injury, which you can't do anything about. But we used to spend so much time on pre and after. And because of the medical centre that we had at and the dock worked at the university and everything else, we used all the facilities. And when Di was there, Di Young, the rugby,
he's Cardiff rugby coach, right?
Yeah.
Well, anything above, I became quite friendly with Di, really, but anything above the waist, they specialised in. Anything below the waist, we specialised in. So we used to share knowledge.
I got you, okay.
And we had two young lads who had a bad car crash. So we wanted the best specialists that were above the waist. And it was like rugby. You know, why not use all, you know, when we built the training ground, that should have all been ours. If we'd have had the money, we would have had all that training ground. But we didn't have the money.
Yeah.
That should have been all ours. Full stop. Shouldn't have mixed it.
Yeah, it's kind of, they had to do that to get it over the line, wasn't it?
But that's what I'm saying. That's why fans never really understood. And because maybe the players we were bringing in, everyone thought we had money, and we didn't. We had to make sure our recruitment was spot on all the time. Just because, as I said, we couldn't afford to bring someone in that wasn't gonna play in the first team or be part of that first team. So we had to make doubly sure that, you know. So when I was there, when Sam Amman was telling me that we should sign this player and that sign, sometimes he was on Planet Zog. we were never going to get close to them, but also you do a deal. You know, I remember Olafinjana when Hull paid, 90% of his wages.
Wow.
Craig Bellamy, Man City paid 99% of his wages. It was, otherwise we would never have been able to afford them.
How do you even get that? I couldn't even imagine going to the thing. It's like, right, we're going to have your player, and you're going to pay 99% of his wages, and we're going to pay 1%. I was like,
and that's what I'm saying. That was my upbringing at Stockport, because the chairman I had always used to say to me, think outside the box. If they say no, think of a way that you can do it.
Yeah.
Think of something that you can do to get the player in.
yeah.
I guess you're sussing out the player's surplus to requirements, where he is, Man City, where Bellamy was.
Well, Craig, we knew the manager hated him at Man City. Mancini hated him.
Yeah.
So it was Craig, just go in and be yourself.
Yeah.
And when Craig's not happy with something, he's a nuisance. So they probably wanted him out.
Yeah.
So
you capitalise.
I knew Craig's agent. And I remember the board meeting when I said how much he was on. And he said, we can't afford that a month. And I went, no, he's on that a week. And I remember Vincent Tan saying, how do we get him, Dave? I said, well, just leave it with me and I'll make sure we get him. And we ended up getting Craig for 10 grand a week.
Wow.
When if I told you what he was on, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we got him for that.
So how do you get that deal then? Do you say to Man City, oh, your player's getting player time, you can have him back when you want to? And just
No,
pay
I
his
remember
wages,
talking to GM Mancini, and I said to him, look, I'll take him away from you. He couldn't stand him. He hated Craig with a passion. Didn't want him around the place. I'll take him away from you. And I think Craig was going through a bad time, and he needed to come back to Cardiff anyway. So it worked in our favour. But the thing with Craig is he brought his fitness guru with him. We had to put up with that for a few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that yoga and stuff, is it?
Yeah.
I think he talked about at Man City, Mancini was making him do double training sessions, and he said, "Look, if you do that, I'm not going to be able to play on the weekend." I think from what I read from his book. Did you? How did you manage to?
He said to us that to get Craig in, we had to listen to his fitness guru for the first few weeks. Because he was saying he could only play 65 minutes in this game, and he's an impact player, which is right. But the best person to tell you whether he's knackered or not is the person himself. You don't need someone in the stand to say he's knackered, and you'll see it. If he can't run anymore, he's knackered. So why do you need some fitness guru? So we had to take that, which was fine. We'll put up with that. But I remember Craig scored 2 goals. And I yanked him off. It was time to bring him off. He gave me hell. I said, let me go and see your guy up there. He said that he had to finish. And he played every game after that. He never missed a game.
That's brilliant.
So it's just, again, I wasn't going to take the blame for that. Him up in the stand, you get him. He's like, he's telling you only play 60 minutes because your body can't take anymore. But Craig saw was he's going to score a hat-trick.
Yeah.
Off you come. I'll put up with the abuse for like half an hour, and then you've got him.
Yeah, that's.
And I said to him, if you're tired, just tell us. If you don't feel right, tell us. I don't need some guy in the stand to tell me on the clock he's going to play this and play that.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, the guy had some great ideas, but Craig never felt tired when he'd scored 2 goals and he's on for a hat-trick, did he? What I mean? If you're playing well, if you're, your team's buzzing and everyone wants the ball, I don't see many people complaining that they're tired.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I see them complaining when they're tired when they're 2-0 down or 3-0 down.
Yeah.
I see that tiredness, but I think Craig had to trust us. And I think when he first come, I think it took him a few weeks to realise that maybe we knew what we were doing. It wasn't just about, we're just going to kick a ball and train, and we actually did know what we were doing a little bit.
Yeah.
He did perform really well, didn't he, Bellamy, for Cardiff? Scored some cracking goals. Yeah, he scored some cracking...
You had to. You got to prove something that you're a player. You can't just be, say you're a good player. You've got to go out on the pitch and prove it. And that's why I said earlier on in this interview that all you can do is give people a stage. You can't make them play well. It's them. And I always believed if they were playing for themselves, then you've got them. They're playing for you then. Because they're not prepared to play for themselves. I don't mean be selfish, but get the best out of what the ability they've got. If they realise that they're playing to the best of their ability, then you're getting the best out of them.
Very true.
Finding the right characters in there for each player.
And it is all about character, because you've got 20 odd different characters in the squad, and they've all got, different ways of going about. When I was here at Wolves, we had Paul Butler, who was my captain. Brilliant. But some days he thought he was Harry Potter. He did. He thought he had a magic cloak that no one could see him. When he'd had an argument with his missus or he wasn't happy, he'd come in and morning butts, morning butts. You had to keep going at him till he come back at you. And he was brilliant. He was one of the best captains I've ever had. He ruled the dressing room for us, but with your say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're sort of in the back. I knew everything that went on in the club, everything that went on, or you'd find something out the next day that had gone on.
Yeah.
But you always felt you never give the inmates the keys. That was the best thing.
Make them think they got the keys, I suppose. Yeah.
and then sometimes you'll get people that say, "Oh, you've lost the dressing room. You've this and that." I've never understood how people lose the dressing room, because as far as I can see, it never moves. It's either next door to the away team or it's next door to the physical room. It's a stupid saying.
Yeah.
You've lost the dressing room.
Yeah.
And why do players want to go out on the pitch and not perform, and then have 30, 40,000 fans having a go at them?
Yes,
It's
not logical.
It's not. And there are comments, and because I never took any of that crap sort of thing, I used to end up arguing with reporters and everything else. And the guy who died, the reporter that died from the Cardiff press, big lad, we always locked horns. And then he wrote a great article about me when I'd left the club. But he finished off by saying that I didn't like him. And I phoned him up and I said to him, "I didn't know you. You never got the time to know me because you were too busy writing, stuff that was more theatrical." And I said, "It's not that I didn't dislike you, it's what you wrote I disliked. I didn't know you to dislike you." And then he sort of realised that, he didn't get to know me. He didn't get to know my sense of humour or whatever. And I didn't know him, and what he wrote about some of the players and myself and everything else, and I'm thinking, in the top three, where have they been before? And so I'd lock horns with him, and then as you get older, you realise, what's the point? They're going to write with it. I remember Everton when I was a young player, because the reports used to come on the coach. They always said to me, "The pen is mightier than the sword." Because what he writes, people believe. And that's, so sometimes I was always fighting against that. But it just used to annoy me sometimes.
You see some managers, I think, from my observation anyway, Warnock was really good at this, of getting them onside. Do you think, does that happen a lot in management, where they kind of get journalists onside?
Yeah, but you've still got to deliver the goods.
Yeah.
But listen,
might buy you a little bit more.
As I said to you earlier on, Neil is, I'm good friends with Neil. Yeah. He wrote on my CV. He wrote a thing about me on my CV and all that. Can I watch his football? No. No, I'd rather watch paint dry.
Yeah.
But he gets the best out of what he's got, and he gets, he's done well. He's got teams promoted and everything else. But could I go every week and watch it? No.
Yeah.
That's just me. But as a person, I always got on with Neil. And there's a lot of people that didn't, but I just used to take him as he was.
Yeah, he's proper football character, isn't he?
I mean, we caught him one day at Sheffield United earwigging behind a locked door. He was listening to what we were saying. He'll deny it, like, but Paul Butler nearly strangled him, like, so. You walk up the tunnel and you could hear him saying, "Start a fight," to upset you. That's what he was like.
Yeah.
But I guarantee after every game I'd go and have a pint with him.
Yeah. Just one other story before we go on to that is I just wanted to ask you your side of the story because there's like an infamous incident where a couple of heavies come to the training ground to look for Michael Chopra. And the way Michael tells the story is like, they come up and asked you, is Chops in training? So yeah, I just wanted to interested in your version of events of like, how that came about. And
You got to tell me what Chop said first.
so I think he said that he was playing and it was like maybe snowing and it was 11 versus 11, and then he saw the guys come in and like he did a little dive into the snow to hide from these people. And then they asked you, is Chops in today? And you was like, oh, no, he hasn't come in or something. But that's kind of a nutshell of like what he said. But just what you kind of remember from that?
No, my secretary, Tracy Shepherd, she rang me. I was in the office and the lads were out doing the warm-up and all that. And then once you'd done the warm-up, then I'd come down and go and do the bits that you had to do. And she said there was a Scottish guy in reception, one Michael Chopra. So I said, okay, bring him in. So he asked me, was I manager? And I said, yes. And he said, where's Michael Chopra? And I said, why do you want to know? He said, he owes me money. So I said, I don't know where he is. I ain't got a clue. And the lad said, well, if he doesn't pay, you'll pay because you're his manager. I said, okay. So I made a phone call. I handed him the phone. And the next thing, he's swearing at me, walking out my office. Well, that's a true story.
Yeah.
And as he walked out, I just said to him, oh, by the way, mate. And he said, what's that? I said, someone will always know someone bigger than what you do.
That was the end of that.
Some choice words then.
Got a couple of friends to sort of tell him that don't mess.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you might be in a bit of trouble. So. You got to remember where they come from as well. So
Yeah.
it was, but Chops, we used to. I don't know. It's quite sad, really, because Chop, he had a gambling addiction, and it's hard to break. But you've also got a dilemma, and I had many arguments with my wife because we tried to sort him out. But the dilemma is he stopped scoring goals. So do I do the moral thing and send him to all the people and he stopped scoring goals for me, or do I let him carry on doing what he's doing and he scores goals for me? It's a dilemma that you have as a manager. Sometimes you correct the person at
takes away that edge.
the disadvantage to the team. Or do you try and sort him? I told him, I've got horses. If you want to muck out every morning, come to the stables and muck out the horses if you're that interested in him. But it wasn't just the horses. He'd bet on a raindrop falling off the windowsill when it was going to go or whatever. And it's hard. And you know, at the time, it is difficult, but you're trying to, you know, I remember the reporter, we used to send them to the Gamblers Anonymous in the city, but it was right next door to a bookies.
Yeah.
So
I think he said at the time, certain places, certain clubs, he didn't want to go. He was getting sent. Then eventually, I think he went to Ipswich and India. He had a time over in India, and he seems to be clean now.
That was like part of it. So
okay.
So
no, listen, I loved him to bits. I really did. I still speak to him. I speak to most of my players, all ex-players and everything else. People think that you manage them and then you don't speak to them afterwards. There'll be players that have got a beef against you, but it's not because you don't play them.
Yeah.
And there's not many players I can honestly put my hand on my heart and say, you know, won't have something, a story about me or whatever. But the one thing I'm proud of is that they can't ever say that I hurt them in any way or, you know, I did it out of a personal. No, I didn't.
Just footballing reasons.
Any decision I made was purely a football. Didn't have favourites. You'll get people say that you had favourites. No, I didn't. I played what I thought was going to get me a result, and you'll always get that. And you'll normally find there's people that didn't play for you, or you left them out. And I go to some charities and everything else, and I listen to ex-people, ex-players, ex-managers, and they talk about the times at the clubs they've had, and they talk about it, and you make laughs and jokes about it, and I'm thinking, well, at the time, it wasn't a laugh or a joke for your manager or people you were playing with. It's not like you saying you did this and you did that, and you didn't do this and you didn't do that. But at that time, that wouldn't have been a good time for the other people around you. So you get your laughs now, but so no, that's just something I don't agree with. And I can put my hand on my heart and say that I try to help everybody, no matter what the problem was, whether they were an alcoholic, a gambler, this, that. Because as a manager, I had divorces to go through. I had people that lost people. The unluckiest person I've ever come across, and Blakey will tell you this, was Blakey. Because one year he had 5 grandparents that died.
Okay.
5.
And I said to him one day, do you know this is the 5th grandparent that's died on you, mate? Why don't you just ask me for a day off rather than that you go to some funeral or something like that? And that's what it was. He wanted a day off. Just be truthful with me.
Yeah.
Got a day off because he lived in Monmouthshire and he was coming up here to Wolves. So it's a drag. So if you want a day off, just say, can I have a day off?
Inventing granddads.
Don't tell me there's something, because this is your 5th one. How many have you got? How many have you got to go through? He just laughed about it and everything else. But no, you build up relationships with players because you rely on them. They've got to cross the white line and you've got to rely on them. And that's why I fell out with some of the press, certainly at Cardiff, because I'd defend them. When the guy had a go at Steve McPhail. Oh, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. He scored an own goal against. Yeah, but hang on. The guy's got lymphoma. He's got cancer and he's training every day and he's fighting that. And, and they didn't, and they didn't need to know that. The press didn't need to know that at the time because they didn't want him to know. But he was prepared to fight and play and everything else, and he's got other worries. And you find that out because you don't say it, but you're defending him. They start having a go at you, and I didn't mind that because it's like water off a duck's back. They can say whatever they want to you, and it is only an opinion.
So there's 3 more things to cover then. We all ask all our guests about their 1 to 11. Usually they're players they play with. Obviously for yourself, it'd be players that you've managed. So if you can give a 1 to 11 of best players that you've managed.
I've managed?
Well, 11 assembled team.
Of everyone you managed.
Of everyone
build
you
a
managed.
team.
Build a team, yeah.
Who would be a
who's on your team sheet?
Start with goalkeeper.
Here we go.
It's a tough one because you've managed some great players. So,
I mean, if goalkeepers, God blimey, can I have 5 of them?
Try and pick one, but you mention a couple.
Look at the goalkeepers that came through, even at Cardiff we had, Michael and all them, didn't we? On loan, and some England goalkeepers, and when I was at Sheffield Wednesday, I've got a World Cup winner. Martinez at Aston Villa, I brought him on loan from Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's a 19-year-old kid.
Was he good back then as well? Was he good as 19?
No. You could say he was always going to be a good goalkeeper. But he was only a young lad when he came to us. I don't know, because it'd be so hard for me. Dean Richards, a centre-back, was top. And then I'd go with someone like Paul Butler. But he wasn't the best player, but he was, as a person, he was brilliant. Yeah. But then you've got Louvens, I've got Roger Johnson, I've got
left back,
4 centre backs across the
left backs. You
got Wayne Bridge.
You got Wayne Bridge. You had Lee Naylor, who went on to play for Celtic. It's a little lad at Stockport called Lee Todd.
Yeah.
who was absolutely magnificent as a young player. The only thing was you could dress Toddy in an Armani suit and he still look a tramp. That's the way he played. Like, you know, I took him to Southampton, but I couldn't take Stockport out of him. He lived that life. He liked the beer and everything else, but he didn't adapt.
Right backs.
Dodds.
Why is the school for now?
Well, you got Dodds. You got Doddsy at Southampton. Who was
Franny
brilliant.
Benali, was he right back or left?
No, Franny was left back.
Yeah.
Franny's the only left back I've ever known to pass the ball over the stand.
The old Rosette.
He went to make a pass and the ball went over the stand at the Dell. Can't believe that one.
Small stand, in fairness, maybe too.
I mean, you know, you look at Macker at Cardiff.
Yeah.
You know, what was he? 24. He looked like 104. You know, I don't think he got the credit he deserved because he was a good fullback.
Yeah.
Unassuming, do you know what I mean? He just did his job.
Into midfield then, just throw out some names.
I've told you, Steve McPhail, ability-wise, wits. I had Chris Marsden, who, I took to Southampton from Cardiff. He was a lad. Like he was. I mean, everyone told me about him. You got to be careful with him. I said, no, I'll be all right. His very first game, he got sent off after 4 minutes. He lamped the midfield for stamping on him. It was at Stockport.
Wow.
And he was brilliant. And then when I took him to Southampton, everyone was saying, "Oh, you know, he's not this," and he became one of their best players at Southampton. So midfield, you know, Incy, Carlton.
Tiss as well.
It's very hard. Honestly, God, it is. I couldn't because I'd be unfair to somebody else.
Yeah.
I really would. Paul Jones, goalkeeper.
Yeah.
It's international. You know, I swear to God that I flew over the Principality Stadium when he was playing. When he printed on his head, was it 50 games he played for? I told him I could see it from the airplane. Big daft bugger, like. And I do a lot of charity with him now. I've done it for 20 years. Yeah, he does a lot of charity events.
Right.
I've done that for 20 years with him. You look at the goalkeepers. We even had it Cardiff. You know, with
Tom Eaton and
two great
Marshall.
Scottish goalkeepers. You know, went on. You know, one of them still playing now. So it's like. People always say who's the best midfield player. It all depends what you mean, ability-wise or the way they are.
Type of game you're playing as well. You might not want to play a certain player.
Listen, forget systems. That's a load of bollocks. That's systems.
Just
as soon as the ball moves, the system moves.
Yeah.
People say they play five at the back, but all of a sudden, that's how you start.
Yeah.
That's how you put it. But once the ball moves,
go do your job.
I listen to some experts sometimes. I think you just don't know the rubbish way. It's not like that for. Yeah. You know, they think they're doing things because a lot of the time you do things because it's instinct and everything else. I'd say the biggest thing that annoys me in football today, more than anything, is when there's a corner or a free kick and the defender's not looking at the ball. He's looking at the man. How the hell does he know where the ball's going to go? Yeah. You know, I just don't get that, me.
Yeah. They must be obviously coached to do that. They just
I don't know.
It is
I first come across it in Hong Kong because they marked you, but they were looking at you to just put you off.
Right.
And I'm like, Jesus Christ, what are you doing? You know, but that's the first time I ever come across it, and that's like 40 odd years ago. So whenever it was, 30 years ago. But now it seems to be. Everybody does it. They're looking the opposite way to where the ball's going.
You're one step behind already, aren't you?
I just think tackling out the game, I think I'd have been sent off 40 times a season, every game really.
Yeah.
I think because you can't. There's good tackles and there's bad tackles. And as a player, you'll know what's a good tackle and what's a bad tackle. Yeah. Mark my words that nobody doesn't know there's a... They know if you've gone to hurt somebody.
Yeah, it looks worse on the slow-mo as well these days, doesn't it? They freeze the frame and they're like, it's not a yellow, it's just...
But everybody, you don't need to have played the game at any, as long as you've played the game at a level, doesn't matter what level, you'll know if you've gone in to hurt someone.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah, I suppose even at that level, they're going to know even more because they know your intentions better than most would anyway, because they'd be like, oh, yeah, I know you've tried to do me there, or whatever. Just quickly, a little bit on strikers as well. Obviously, fantastic strikers. You mentioned Bothroyd, Hasselbank, Fowler, obviously
Kevin Davis,
Ahas.
James Beattie, Ahas. There's like loads, isn't there, you could choose from. But some of the top ones, like, what about Jimmy? Obviously, you had him towards the end of his career, but he did really well for you in Cardiff.
Jimmy was brilliant. I had Mark Hughes as well.
Oh yeah. Mark Hughes.
I turned Sparky from a centre forward into a midfield player at Southampton.
Yeah,
because he was. I used to love watching him play. He was brilliant.
Yeah,
we spoke to Andy Legg down in Neath the other month, and he said he's the strongest man on the pitch he's ever seen. Hughes,
he's in his absolute unit.
Yeah.
On his chest and then volley left or right out to the wingers, and as wingers he played with weren't bad as well, were they? Like, but no, Sparky, great lad, good player,
good pro.
Yeah, do you know what? I can honestly say that I don't ever remember in my career having a problem with a player. You know, like arguing or
just
falling out with him or clashing all the time. I never really fell out with anybody, and that's what I said. I said that from the start. You only had two choices: play well to get in the team, or play well to get a move. And if you've got a good squad, that was the hardest thing, was to keep everybody happy. And you were never going to do that. Because if you've got a good squad of players, it's very difficult to keep them all happy. I remember one player when I was at Sheffield Wednesday coming to see me and asked me why I wasn't playing him. Because you're scoring goals, you've been brilliant, the crowd are on you, right behind you. And he looked at me as if it was stupid. I said, yeah. He wasn't scoring goals, he wasn't running around. I'm not going to leave him out if he's, your best player. So, I always tried to pick a team that I thought was going to win us the game.
Yeah.
And I never went into, I don't ever remember in my career, and this is, don't lie much. Anyway, I tell the wife I'm playing golf with him, playing in the nighttime golf as well when it's a long day. I can honestly put my hand on my heart and say that I've never gone into a game thinking I was going to lose it. I always thought I had a chance of winning it, and I've always believed that. I'd hate to have put a team out and they thought, we're not going to win today, because what's the, all the work that you've done in the week, what was the point?
Yeah. You've got to have that winning mentality anyway, haven't you? You've got to believe you can win.
Yeah, and I think at the moment that's probably what's lacking at the club now, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
we've that belief that but sometimes you reap what you sow. I don't know, it's quite sad. I fear for them at this moment in time, if I'm being honest. I really do.
Yeah.
Poor result on the weekend, obviously, losing at home 1-0. Might be the hammer blow, actually, because
you've got some
tough games coming up.
Sheffield United, who've just coming off the back of 3 losses. They've got to win.
They've got to win, yeah,
to get back in, which isn't always right. And it won't be about ability now. It'll be about character now.
Yeah.
Is it 4 games you got? Is it
4 games left? Yeah.
So and now it's the time where your CEOs will be putting you under pressure as a manager, because the higher you finish up the league, the more money you're going to get. And you've got. Well, have you got to go to Norwich, is it? Or Norwich come to you?
Last game of the season,
they'll
I think,
be
Norwich.
wanting to finish as high as possible. Is that a home or away?
It's away at Norwich.
So they won't
got
want to
West
lose
Brom
away. West Brom, they're fighting to get in the playoffs.
Sheffield United away, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, Oxford's home, I think, as well.
And Oxford won't be an easy one. So it'll all be about character now. Forget performance. It's all about character. And that's the biggest thing that, and the other teams are below you are starting to win.
Yeah.
I still think they've got enough about them to get the results. I mean, I think the big one is Derby and Plymouth, is it? They play next, I think. They've got to play. So you don't want to be playing teams that are in it with you. You want to be playing teams that are
kind of on the beach.
On the beach, Norwich.
and you hope so, but then depending on what he plays, he could play a load of kids that want to, or contracts are up. I just don't think they should be in the situation they're in.
It looked like they were going to pull away at one part of the season. They got the points, and then this last couple of months has been slipped back down.
The squad that they got, I mean, there should be enough quality to at least be mid-table, I feel. But, I mean, like, that's probably biased because I'm a Cardiff fan, but I think, you know, you got players like Ramsey there. I think...
But Aaron's not played, though, has he? So he's got to play on a regular basis. And
I think, do you think they've overused him, maybe? Because I think, me personally, I think if I was, you know, I'd maybe play him like 60 minutes, but like, there was like games against Plymouth away where they kept him on for 100 minutes, and it's like, if you want the best out of Ramsey, surely you got to, you know, manage his game time at this stage.
Well, you know, people like that, who've got injuries or whatever, you've got to manage them. It's no good in being, you're not sure how many minutes you're going to get out of him sitting on the bench, because you could bring him on in the last 5 minutes and then you've lost another. So you've got to start people like that. If if you're not sure how long they can play for, start them.
Yeah.
Don't sit them on the bench, because when you do bring them on and they break down, then you're knackered on it.
Yeah.
And really, you shouldn't have players that you're not sure how long they're going to last anyway, unless they're coming back from an injury and fitness wise. But injury wise, no, you don't need people around you that are injured that you're relying on. So
yeah.
I don't know. I went to watch the game on New Year's Day at home against Coventry.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think there was much between the two sides, and you look at where they are now.
Yeah.
I never thought they'd have got into the
Frank's
playoff positions.
Lampard's done a great job, hasn't he?
Was that 1-1 draw, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So I don't think... I don't know. I've not seen them many times, but...
it's not looking good.
It's not... They should not be in the situation they are. Whether that's lack of knowledge around the club, football knowledge or what, I don't know.
Yeah. Would you like to come back as maybe director of football or something like that?
I'd go back at a heartbeat, yeah, of course I would. And I think...
Do you fancy the next 4 games for us?
But I don't think I don't think you're going to get anything by changing it now. You know, you see, bring back Neil Warnock, he's this, that. What if it doesn't work? Or what if it doesn't work? Well, it's like...
Yeah.
You've got to run. Sometimes you roll your dice, you've got to run with what you've got. But what you can't do is what you've done for probably the last 2 or 3 years, is make the same mistakes next year.
Yeah.
And I do think they need someone with football experience in the club.
Yeah, there seems to be
I'm not talking about picking the team or what. I'm talking about just running the club, because when I was there at the Christmas time, I didn't see a great deal of football knowledge around. And I remember them making a substitution, and there must have been 7 people still on the sub from the bench going on. Why? It must be, who am I listening to here? Like, you know, and I think you might need to say to the manager, like, just you tell them what you need doing, or your assistant does, but you don't need 3, 4
one
people.
clear, concise message.
Yeah, because it gets too confusing. What are they telling them?
Like a sign of panic, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, it was hard because to go back and watch a club that you've been manager at and struggling, it's not. I didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest. I was welcome back and everything else. I felt comfortable that way, but I sat with his wife in the lounge, and you just see the fear, you know, because it's not going well, and that's a horrible feeling. And I said to my wife, like, you know, you like that sometimes, and she said, well, yeah, because it's not a nice feeling to have when people are having a go at you. I was quite lucky in my career. I was the opposition having a go at me. You know, it never seems to hear the home fans having a go at you anyway.
Yeah.
So, no, I really hope that they don't go down. I really do.
Yeah.
And would they go back? Yeah, of course I would. I'd love to go back. in any capacity, really.
Yeah.
Because I do have I've got over 1,000 games as a manager. God knows what I've got as a coach, as a player. I've got a lot of knowledge, and I want to give it back. And I've got a minimum 10 years left in me I still have the same enthusiasm to do whatever it is. And I do have a lot of knowledge. And I think my record speaks for itself sometimes that, wherever I've been, I've done all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I think, I was a long time at Cardiff as well. I've got a lot of respect for the people there and everything else. And it's not nice. It's not. And Southampton's the same. Last game of the season, I've been invited to walk around the pitch at Goodison as one of the ex-players. And I'm going to be going around the pitch celebrating Everton, and
Your
the
clubs.
opposition, my old club's gone down. It's going to be mixed feelings for me.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose the only silver lining with that is they're not going down on the day they Southampton. They're already mathematically gone, so I'm sure they'll show you, the respect we deserve.
I hope that no fans travel. And it's just full of Evertonians. 'Cause I know I'll definitely get a good reception.
Probably will be
And
that
there's no
point.
reason why I won't get a good reception from the Southampton people, because I
Yeah.
did all right there as well. But when you've been at a club, you do have an affinity with it, really.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And what was I don't know. What was at Cardiff? Was it
6
years.
7 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I've got great memories. Wherever I've been, I've got good memories of. But no, I hope they do stay up. I really do. But I do think they've got to change. I'm not talking about the manager and everything else. I just think they've got to change the way of thinking.
It's very short term, and I think Dalman's come out and said that there isn't really much of a long term football plan. They just expected things to go on. So yeah, they need a long term vision, and I definitely think someone with football knowledge, like you say, on board level, or even
You've got to have a long
have a plan,
term.
haven't you?
You can't have short term. Short term is, what does that get you? If your short term plan now, because your plan is you've got to stay in the division, but then you've always got to have a long term plan. You've got to plan ahead.
yeah.
And now and again you'll come off that pathway. But you've always got to come back to the pathway, otherwise you don't build anything.
Exactly, yeah.
When we started, the path, the building of it was first team priority. Yeah, stay in the division is the priority. So you build your team in a priority. Then what you got to look at is bringing through. And from what I can recall, I asked all the staff that were there, the scouts that were still there before I sacked them all, who was the last top player to come through the ranks at Cardiff when I was there. Before I arrived, who was your last top player?
Probably Earnshaw was.
No.
What you mean? Before
Who
that,
went on
or-
to be a top
Ramsey?
elite player? No,
Before your time.
Oh, before.
Oh,
And you'll be absolutely shocked.
was it like John Toshak? Was that one?
Toshak, was it?
Toshak.
It was Toshak.
Yeah.
Well, that was
You mean
a
to
while
the,
back.
like the tippy top level?
Yeah, Real Madrid style, like.
To go,
Yeah.
to come through.
Yeah.
And then you think, that can't be right. That's so. We just didn't look at. When I went, we looked at everything in the club.
Yeah.
Your academy wasn't producing, and all of a sudden, you bring through your Ramseys, your Ledleys, the big centre forward, that they brought down from Middlesbrough. So all of a sudden, you're starting to get players into your squad.
Yeah.
But that's the after event. Your priority is first team. So people say you always build from the bottom. Well, you can have the best youth team in the world, but it ain't going to affect your first team for 5-6 years. Yeah. So build from top to bottom, go the other way.
There's no good if you're not around to reap the rewards, is it? You know. So.
But your job as a manager or a coach, whatever you want to call him, because it's the same manager, head coach, doesn't really make any difference. Your head coach is game to game. Your sporting director or technical director is the future.
Long-term planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your manager is short-term because he's got to get results from game to game.
Yeah.
But then what you've got to do also is you've got to look at what you're bringing through. So the biggest, if you ask me what my biggest sort of what I look at in my career and say, I'm proud of that. Every club I've been at, when I've left a legacy.
Yeah.
You look at Southampton, you look at the players, they're still coming through at Southampton with the academy, what we did, how we started it. Cardiff should be the same. You've got now academy facilities. You look at where we used to train, it was Dogshit Park. We used to get the kids to go and clean the park up before we could train on them.
Yeah.
You know, now the facilities they got, Southampton you look at, Stockport you look at, you have to leave some sort of legacy. So it's not about you, it's what you're leaving for the next person to come in and build. And I think maybe Cardiff stagnated on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think they've missed that football knowledge maybe to grow it. And that's no disrespect to the people, you know, Mehmet or Vincent or anything, because they put a lot of money into the football club.
Yeah.
They haven't stood idle, but I also think it's not just the team that needs help, it's also the people, the hierarchy.
That's it. It's all right having money, but you got to spend it wisely, haven't you? So
And you got to know what you're doing with it. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, because it's you got to treat it like your money. I know some managers say, "I'll just buy and buy and buy," but you can't do that because you got to treat it as if you're spending your money. So why do you want to spend millions on players and they can't play for you because they're no good?
yeah.
And then you lose your reputation in the game that you can't find players, and you just not at Cardiff, we didn't have any money to spend anyway. So it's about just having a plan, sticking to it. You'll come off it now and again. You'll have to branch off because you might have an injury or something like that. But you've got to have a vision to say, this is where we want the club to be. This is what we want to do. The vision at Cardiff when I went, my remit was to stay in a division. Then the remit changed to build a team that hopefully was going to get there. But within that remit, the one thing we couldn't do, it took us a long time to get out of a 50 odd million debt, because that's what we inherited. And then when you think about it, they built a new stadium within that, training facilities within that. And you've got to give Peter Ridsdale credit for that, because he still built brand new stadium and a training facility. How we did it, I really was on the back of selling
Players.
Getting him in cheap and selling him for big money.
Yeah.
Ramsey shouldn't have gone to... I wouldn't have let Ramsey go to Arsenal. I wanted him to go to Man United.
Yeah. Was there like a
because
thing
Fergie was going to let me have him back on loan. I knew if he'd have gone to Arsenal, I knew Wenger would play him.
Yeah.
Because he was that good.
Yeah.
But Fergie was going to send him back to you straight away. So he would never have really known how good he was.
You're lucky for the goodness there, Steve.
Yeah.
You're an Arsenal fan, aren't you? The story goes, though, again, I don't know how true this is, but Wenger went to meet Ramsey personally, and I don't think Fergie did personally. I think that's what tilted Ramsey's decision. I don't know if that's true.
Listen, I know they flew the parents and Aaron out to, I think it was in Nice or somewhere like that, to meet Wenger. I think Fergie was he was doing something and he couldn't, so he got I think it was Giggsy and them. I think they thought he might have gone to Man United because of Giggsy and people like that were at the club, or they had Welsh people. Would Fergie have been worried about it? Not really. I think he could have replaced it with other people, and if it had gone the other way, I don't think Arsenal would have been. I think that but once they've got them, you've got a good player. But at that time of Aaron's career, I don't think it would have been.
I think Arsenal was a good fit for him personally. Anyway, I mean,
yeah, he did fantastic.
The way they play, quite technical.
We knew at 15 that we had a top player.
Yeah,
You could, Aaron reminded me a little bit of Kumas. He glided past people. Wasn't blessed with great pace, but he had that glide where he could just go past them. Yeah. And Cooey was like that. I love watching Cooey play.
Yeah.
He just did things that you think, same as what Tiz did.
Yeah.
And we thought that Aaron had a little bit of that. There was something in him that you could just see that, yeah, he could pick a pass. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he was always streets ahead. And that's intuition. Now, that's nothing to do with...
It's natural, yeah.
Yeah, that's a natural... If you could bottle it, you'd be
That'd be a good sell on product, wouldn't it?
Well, what else have you got for me before you...
Yeah, it was just a final wrap up, like quick fire questions. So
yeah.
We'll do the shorts first, guys.
I will just go straight into the quick fire, shall we?
Go into the
Yeah.
Just because we're pushed for time a bit. So,
first one then. Top 3 tips. What would you give to a grassroots coach? Top 3 tips or one?
So, coach.
Yeah.
I think as a young, let them play. Stop all this, like, you know, if they're dribbler, let them dribble.
Okay.
Don't knock it out of them. And also, you got to remember that the youngsters like a blank tape. So what you're giving them is going to stay with them for a long time. So make sure the information you're giving them is the correct one, and give them time. I've got 3 grandchildren, all of the age of 10, and they're all good players. And one of them is all the big clubs are chasing them in the Northwest. All Liverpool, Everton, Man United, Man City, they're all chasing them. But my son's been a player, and he knows that let him play with his mates, because when he goes into the clubs, they don't play with the mates anymore.
Yeah, they take him out.
So just the tip is just let them play. If they are dribblers, let them dribble. There's nothing more exciting than seeing a lad run with the ball and dribbling and everything else. Don't knock things out of them. Give them information. Don't tell them they're not doing this or they're not doing that. See where they're best, what they're good at, and work at that.
Yeah.
More than knocking something else out of them. And just let them be kids. Let them enjoy because once they get into pro clubs, I think you stop enjoying it.
Okay. My question is a bit more of a hard one. So if you was trapped on a desert island somewhere and you had to take an ex-pro with you to get you off, who would be your go-to man?
An ex-pro to do what to you?
To help you get off the island.
Oh, get off the island.
Yeah, you're trapped on the
someone
island.
else then. Jesus.
That's a different question. Maybe you add that one in.
Who would it?
Yeah, so if you're trying to escape from the islands.
Who's the most useful person, I suppose?
My wife was an ex-player, so I'll take it.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
What's the best goal you ever seen scored?
The best goal I've seen scored.
Your brothers?
I can't say that. I goal for them next week. I can't bung them up too much. I think probably Tiz's Newcastle. He flicked it over.
Oh, that yeah.
I think I've seen some good goals. We had who was the centre forward we had? He used to play at Stoke.
Peter Thorne, is it?
No, big, tall, black player.
Kevin Jones.
Cardiff Fuller.
Yeah, he scored a goal for us away. That was like top draw. He was a brilliant goal. So I think, I don't know. That's a stupid question.
Too many good goals.
Probably the best goal I saw was mine at Swindon when we got through to the semi.
So you got to start one, bench one, and sell one. 3 players: Henry, Ronaldo, Giggs.
Who's the best player for me?
No, you got to start one of them, bench one of them, and sell one of them. And the 3 players are Henry, Ronaldo, Giggs.
Well, Ronaldo, I thought was, when people say Messi or Ronaldo, I would have gone Ronaldo because I think he's done it in different countries.
Yeah. So he's starting for you.
Yeah, so he starts.
Who's going to bench and who's going to
Well, I'd bench then Thierry Henry and I would sell Messi because he'd be worth more than
Gigs.
Gigs, yeah.
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 Okay.
It was Giggs.
It was Gigs. Yeah, it's Gigs.
Oh, Giggs. No, I'd bench Giggs and sell Thierry Henry.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Oh, okay. Is there a player that didn't quite get to sign that you wish you could go back and sign in your career?
Yeah, every manager will tell you they've got a player that you missed.
There's that one.
And there's one that I missed, definitely missed. And I went, it was when I was manager of Southampton, and I took my chairman to watch him play. And he didn't think he did very well at half time. And I said, well, he scored one and made one. And he was watching the other winger. And the one I wanted, when we spoke to the agent, wanted £1 million net. It was a free. Wow. But the player wanted £1 million net.
Signing on fee.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And no, that was wages net. And my chairman said that there's two things you don't get away with in this country. One's death and one's taxes. And he said that, he wasn't going to give anybody a contract. That was netto. Netto was the word then. That was the big word. And that was the winger Cocu.
Wow.
And he went on to play for Barcelona. And
Philippe Cocu, yeah.
And I could have had him when he played for the Dutch side.
Wow.
I could have had him at Southampton for £1 million. And I was trying to persuade him to say, look, you'd pay £1 million for him. You'd pay more than that. So just give him the money. But every manager will tell you there's one that's got away.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest one for me, I thought, because
Cocu,
I thought we could have had him. In the end, we didn't get him. So
yeah, I bet he's kicking himself after that because he could have sold him for a hell of a lot more of $1 million.
Well, yeah, because that's what most of the clubs have been at. Was, as I said, was get cheap and sell big.
Yeah,
it was the way you survive. I didn't mind that. It was not a bad way to work, but it would be nice just one day to sit there and think, well, I've got all these millions, what do I spend it on?
Yeah.
And you don't always have to be successful by spending money as well, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that you'll be more successful. It helps. But if you do your due diligence properly and you've got good recruitment people around you, good people around the world, you'll always find good players.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you name me 3 world-class players who've retired and 3 class world players today?
3 world-class players that have retired. Eusebio.
Okay.
Pelé. Maradona.
And any player now? 3 world-class players?
Well, Ronaldo, Messi.
Oh, apart from them, that's cheat code. That's a cheat code, that is. Apart from them.
Well, you asked me for world-class players.
They're goat.
But they are world-class.
They are.
Who's the third then? That'd be interesting.
Third one, Maldini.
Okay.
I think that, but you could name a lot of them that were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Maldini's still playing now, and he's got 40 odd years of age.
Something easy, yeah.
Crazy.
See, they're poor questions, them, aren't they? You can't answer them. There's so many.
In the Prem, then.
Would you expect me to put a Welshman in there somewhere? Like that?
That's what he wants, yeah.
You wanted Bale.
Is Bale gone? Yeah, where is Bale?
Is there any Welsh players that ever get into that?
Gareth Bale?
Gareth Bale.
Listen, Gareth Bale,
was he around? Was he a young kid at
Southampton? Yeah. I think Gareth, for me, is one of them players that, similar to what I did with Wayne Bridge, he was a left back, wasn't he?
Yeah, the reverse.
And then you reverse it, and all of a sudden, and I think if Harry's honest, if H is honest, he'll tell you it was done by mistake, that. He'll tell you it won't be, because don't worry about Harry. He'll tell you. I think it's one of them where you put somebody in a position where you think, Jesus, because Witts came to us as a winger, and he ended up as central midfield player. So I think Gareth Bale was one of them players that he fell into something that and he was top player. I think he could still play. He could have carried on.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I don't know why. Maybe he fell out of football because of what happened to him
in
Spain or whatever. But
would he make the world class bracket for you?
Yeah, of course he would. Yeah. Gareth. Yeah, I think he's probably one of, if not the best player that's come out of Wales. And you've had some players. Yeah. Mark Hughes, centre forward. You were.
Rushy.
I thought Rushy. I played against Rushy and all that. Rushy was he was top draw. Yeah, he used to try and kid you a lot. I'm not interested, and he'd turn away, and then all of a sudden you take a touch on the ball, and then he'd turn, and he was at you. He was something special, Rushy, and then so I'm not putting Tosh in that because I don't like Tosh. I remember having an argument with Tosh at the ground once over one of my wingers who wanted to retire, didn't want to play anymore. And he came in berating him and asked him what he was doing. And he come into my football club and start berating my players, get out. And I kicked him out to change it at the training ground. And the next thing, Martin Margeson got 2 boxes and imposed mine and Tosh's head on. And I remember the reporter saying to me, how long has this feud been going on? And I went, about 25 years. I played against him. So I said, I was a youngster when I was only 18, I think, when he played at Liverpool. I think it was one of my first derby matches I played against him. So I said, feud's been going on. He thought I was going to say like a couple of days or something like that. No, about 25 years. Something like that. So, no, but Wales, I think now, they've had some good players and
just not enough good players, is it?
In the same, well, another
size, you got to look at the size of the country as well.
Yeah.
But you've got a lot of players that you wouldn't have had, say, 20 years ago that were playing at top clubs. You've got a lot of players now that are playing within the Premiership, and as I said to you before, there's no bad players in the Premiership. You just don't play that many games and play, and you've had some top gigs, as you said, Russia, Sparky,
Southall. Would you give Southall world class? Would you say?
I think I'm with so I think he's walking on the pitch with us.
Yeah, okay. I can imagine he would be. Yeah,
I think he's going to be walking on the pitch with us. I think
Peter Reid and all that a lot as well.
Reid, I don't know. They've invited 50 of us to go back, and I think they're all from different eras.
Yeah,
and everything else. It'd be quite sad, really, because it's. I don't know if you've ever been to Goodison. Have you ever been?
Yeah, we've interviewed up there. Yeah.
Yeah, we interviewed Jermaine Beckford up there.
Yeah.
And then
have you been to a game? No,
not a game.
No,
well, you won't get to it now, but they have a siren that goes off. It's like a World War II
before
siren.
they play the Z cars theme tune. Yeah,
before they play that, there's a siren, and even though you don't play anymore and everything else, even though I've gone back to watch them, you still get that buzz. That it's the siren. It's the buzz that goes around the ground. And it'd be sad to see it, but they need to change. It's a big old ground now, and it's served them well. But the new ground is something special.
Yeah. Hopefully, it brings some success as well.
I hope so. I think David's done well since he's gone back in. He's sort of put him on a good footing, but it's not going to change. It's going to take a good 10 years to get back to be one of the top 3 clubs, and it is one of the top 3 biggest clubs in the Premiership. Yeah. It's Liverpool. I say that's a hard word to say. Man United and Everton. They are the 3 biggest clubs in the Premiership by far. Fan base and everything else.
My club. You not pick my club, Arsenal.
No, it's not. Arsenal's a great club and everything else, but they used to say the top 3 big clubs in the land was
on that
Liverpool, Everton and Man United for support around the world and everything else. And I don't think people realise how big Everton actually is. The fan base is phenomenal. The Liverpool fan base all live out of Liverpool. There's no Liverpool fan lives in Liverpool. Live in Asia and around the world.
Same.
That's a blue nose joke.
Fair enough. Well, just one more question each, and we'll just rattle through these then. What's the best perk or freebie you've had in your career, you know, just from a sponsor or something someone's just given you? Yeah? Hong Kong, is it?
There's,
All that.
just gave them, there was 20 given out for
right.
Premiership managers.
Ideal.
So, I don't know what it's worth or whatever, it's just
Nice.
Yeah.
done it. So,
One of the
I think that's the only perk I've ever got. No one's ever given me anything, so I've had to earn everything.
yeah.
So I keep telling my wife anyway, got to earn it.
My last question is, if you could, you obviously spent your managerial career in England. If you could manage abroad somewhere, what would like one of the other leagues that you would have liked to have like tested?
When I was at Stockport, just before I went to Southampton, I went on pre-season. I always used them at pre-seasons in Portugal. I loved the weather. I thought it was ideal. I thought the teams we play were brilliant. I thought the referees were crap, which was part of not biting. But you know, if you got a referee over here that was poor, you didn't rip his head off or something like that. So you're always and also whenever we went over to Portugal, I'd always get players that were. I'd always play one game against like a trial. So all the players that have been released from clubs around. So we always use it as that. Yeah. And I picked up players like good players like Cavaco and when I was Stockport. So I've always gone back there. I loved going there. Portugal was a great pre-season tour for me. I forgot what you asked me. What was the actual... Just
if you could manage in another country, would it be Portugal?
Oh, sorry. I got the opportunity. I got asked to manage Beninese.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And we played there and we beat the first team, and I got an offer to go and manage them. I think if I'd been manager at 2 or 3 other clubs at the time, I think I'd have gone. But it was my first managerial job, and I didn't think I was ready to go and manage abroad at that time.
Still learning the ropes,
But I would go now. I'd feel confident. I think you got to be confident to go abroad as a coach or a manager.
Yeah.
The football language is the same wherever you go, so that's not the problem. I think it's knowing the way, and I think you only get that with experience.
Yeah.
I think if you go abroad as a young coach, ahead of somewhere, and you do well, I think you need a little bit of luck to do that. I think you've got to know the league and everything else that you're managing it.
Gary Neville succumbed to that, didn't he, when he went to Valencia?
Yeah, but then, was he really cut out to be it? I don't know. Everyone says that you've got to be a certain type of person. There's an ingredient that you need when you become a head coach or a manager. There's one ingredient that you will always need in the hat to have, and that's a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
Always. It's part, and you just need that little luck. And if sometimes it goes against you from day one, it's very hard to recover, to shake that out. Yeah. But that's one of the ingredients that you do need, along with good players and good people around you and everything else. You do need a little bit of luck sometimes.
Okay.
Hey, what's your best moment in your career?
Well, to be honest, I've every club I've been at, I've always had good moments, but nothing will ever get close to running out at Goodison Park on my debut.
Yeah.
Home debut, because I made my debut away. But as a youngster running out, even though I ran out as a young player in the youth team and everything else, but to actually run out in the first team, and I think there was like 45,000 people there, and you think to yourself, well, hang on, I was one of them 45,000 people cheering, and then the next thing is making sure that the first pass that you made is a good one, not a bad one.
Was it a good pass?
I always make good passes. As a manager, I can honestly say I've never played a bad game because I've never had to kick a ball.
Yeah,
it's like a fan. I've always said fans will always pick the best team because you always pick it after the event rather than
That's
I'm
good.
no
That's good
different. I'm the best England manager you could ever have, along with you three, or Welsh manager, whatever you want to put it. Because one, I haven't got to pick the team. I can always pick it after the event, and I will always see it before anybody else does because I'm watching it on TV. The best place to be is sitting in the stand and watching because I bet you've never kicked a bad ball in your life.
Definitely.
Until it comes to you in a match day. So no, I'll always believe that. I'll always be the best coach because I haven't got to pick the team or whatever. It's when you got to pick it, the problems start.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Great.
Well, really appreciate you coming on
Yeah,
and spending
brilliant.
time with us today. It's been fantastic. And we just want to thank everyone for watching. Don't forget, if you want to see new episodes, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a like. And if you want to get involved in the debate, drop a comment in the comment section. But that's it for this time, guys. Have a world-class weekend.